what are functions? Hello guys, this is Coding Labs and I will be teaching you or tutoring you about what functions exactly are. This is a very basic part of our course. So functions are basically some of the most important tools where you can actually contribute in coding. Without functions, things are just not possible, and that's how things would work. So before you understand what functions really are, let's dive into the concept of an example. Let's check out for an example. So let me just say that there are some things. So if I would say, what are alphabets? So you're going to say alphabets are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. If I say alphabet starts from A, and then we have letter M, and after M we have letter Q. So you would be confused and you would say, no, that's not right. Functions work the same ways. They are independent of their own attributes, but while running them in a main function, because you need to have a container, a main function. I mean to say that a function which contains all of the functions to run in a sequential order. And that is how coding works. So you have a main function, and in this video, all the functions that I will be dealing with will be in orange, so you can understand what functions really are. And I do hope that you understand what they are before you can actually create something of your own idea using functions. Hello to the coding part. Alright, let's get started. So this is a basic code that I have written. Now, this is again the preprocessor header, right? This is the using namespace standard. Now, my question when I showed you the orange part of the function, what exactly is a function? Now, if you can find where the orange part in here is, it's just main. So you guessed it right. This part is a function. Now, this is the main part. Now, if you want to execute, for example, let's say, let me execute a program, and let's check what happens if I build and run this. So I definitely get an error because there is an error in the coding, and the coding is incomplete, certainly. But let's assume, for the sake, that we have a coding, such as C output, which prints, this is awesome, with an end line. And let me print my function in here, okay, which is going to be crown. Now, crown is my function. This is a function with open and closed braces with a semicolon. Now, if you see here, there is no semicolon, so we're just going to erase the semicolon. Crown, open closed braces, or open closed brackets, open brace, closed brace, or you could say blocks, within which it has C output, this is awesome, end line. And we have an integer main. Now, integer main acts as a remote, or at least a remote controller. It controls all of the coding, and that is why we name it as main. It is a main coding. Now, this is the main body, and in order to access or retrieve or to display
This is awesome message, you need to put this crown function, because this crown function is not just the name crown, it starts from here and ends in here. So this entire function itself is a function. So you're going to put this entire body inside int main.
So it gives you something, but it does not give you the entire thing, right? And the reason is because you have to pour this entire body. So we're just going to put this function within integer main. So let's just paste this function in here with a semicolon. Now we have a semicolon here, but when you're creating a function of your own, you do not have to really put a semicolon here. It's just open and close brackets. So let's go ahead and build and run and see what happens. Okay, so it gives this is awesome. It prints the right source. It prints this is awesome, which is so cool. Okay, now the question is, what happens if I put this command, this code, and put this right below? You know, just cut it off. Actually, you know what? Let me just get back to the code. What happens if I just take this piece of code, you see, cut it off, right, and put it right, paste it right in the at the bottom, and have the code in here. So I'm just gonna paste my code in here. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Whoops. Sorry for the glitches. I'm just gonna make it up. All right. Now we have crown with semicolon in integer main. Will this code run? What do you think? Is it gonna run when there is this integer main? But the only difference we did is that we switched this function from the top and we put it at the bottom. So let's see what happens. So let's just close this thing, build and run and see what happens. So we're just gonna build it, and certainly it gives you this error. It gives you an error right in here. So the program is not really running, and the reason is because every execution that happens, it goes line by line. So this is the first line, that's the second line, the third line, the fourth, the fifth. So everything goes in sequence. So when it goes in sequence, this current function, the code does not recognize. So when it comes to this stage, the function, the compiler asks like, oh, what is this and where did this come from? Where did the crime come from? Is it an integer? Is it a character? Is it a variable? Is it a float? A double? What is this crime? And so it just gets confused, and there it just pops an error. And that is the reason why we just copy this entire code, or at least cut it and put it right in here, so that it's easy for the compiler to build and run in the most easiest way. And that's why we execute properly. But here it's not going right because we just missed the open close braces. So we're just gonna put open close braces and run. Okay, and there you go. This is awesome. All right. So just remember, when you're creating a function, create an open close brackets in here, open close brackets. When you are putting the function within the main function, which is the remote, which I call as a remote function because it acts like a remote controller, then you need to put the name of the function. Everything's same. Just copy paste crown open close braces. It is the same. You see, it's just the same. But the only difference is that there is a semicolon that you need to add extra, which is actually gonna extract the information from the crown function, an independent crown function, to main function, and that's how it's going to go in sequence. I hope you understood. And actually, that is one way in actually understanding. The other way is you could probably use different methods, which is if you really want this crown function to be at the bottom, right? So let's assume our first case, which we did, cut it, and we're just gonna paste it right at the bottom. Okay. So this crown function is the bottom. What do we do now in order to build this? So certainly we know now that it has an error. So crown, orange, whatever, open close braces and function. So all the oranges are functions. Remember that. Okay. To make this valid, we're gonna copy this exact same thing within the main. Okay, copy it and paste it here. And let's check if the build is correct. Okay, let's check if our code is correct. So I'm just gonna remove that thing. Let me put some equal spaces so that you can differentiate and understand. All right, there you go. It still shows an error in main. So what we can do is we can actually CROWN and semicolon. That shows error here. So do you really figure out what's happening in here? This is the first command that got printed. I mean, that's run. This is the second command. Now there's a crown command. So wherever there's a crown is in here. You see? So what that means is we have placed this crown within the main. So if you remove the crown from here, let's see what happens if you build and run. There's still an error here. And that's because you have to put this okay, that's still an error. Well, I think in that case, what you can do is you can put the crown command. What you can do is put the crown. What's wrong with you? Oh yeah. There is no void. That's the problem. So you need to put a void command. Since there is a crown, there is going to be a void. So now we're gonna have a write command. Okay, that's right. So that's it for today. And I'm just gonna run it once more just to check if it's correct, and I'm pretty positive that's gonna work. That was a silly mistake from my side, so I'm just gonna put it at the left that you can actually recognize what is what. All right, so this is gonna run the first one. The compiler is gonna run the second code. The compiler is gonna run the third code. It's gonna recognize that there is a cron function. It is gonna come to the cron function and ask what this function is all about. So it's gonna cron function. Now the cron function is in the main, so it has to print this is awesome, and that's all about the code. So let's just build and run. Okay, we still find an error. I'm not really sure. Probably need to put like void round. Alright, we got, this is awesome. Okay, we got the right resource, got the right information, which is so cool. Okay, so just remember to add a void before you add ground. So void is always important. Let's check what happens if you remove the void from the main function, the main function we created. Okay, whoops, whoops, whoops. All right, let's check what happens if we fill in one. Okay, it does not work. Okay, that makes sense. So if I add void in here, just copying this code, and I'm just gonna paste it in here. So it should work. And that's how we got the right code, and hope you understand. And if you haven't got any questions, let me know. This is a very simple code. And if you have doubts, let me know, because in the upcoming classes, I will try my best to, tutor you in the most profound and, you know, catchy ways, because these are some of my starting series. So I just hope that everything goes smooth and clear, crystal for you to understand. So if you need to revise, let me just go ahead and revise very quickly what that means. So we created the main function. We created another function which is called the cron function. And what we basically did is we put the cron function within the main function and try to print it, since the main function is the main function. So everything happens in here since this is the remote, right? So once this code is executed, this code is executed, this is here. So when this is here, it goes in here. The code goes in here, prints this is awesome, and returns 0. And that's how the compiler, cancels or returns the value at 0.194 seconds, which is the execution time. Alright, so I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching.